Merced Shakespearefest presents William Shakespeare's The Tempest, a 4-part audio drama directed by Carin Heidelbach and recorded safely and remotely by a cast of talented actors from all across the United States, featuring original music by Goran Norquist. And now, Merced Shakespearefest presents The Tempest.
Episode 1, The Storm, the Ship, and the Circumstances. Act 1, Scene 1. On a ship at sea, enter a master and a boatswain.
Bosun.
Here, master.
Good. Speak to the mariners. Pull to it yarely, or we run ourselves aground. Bestir! Bestir!
Hey, my hearts! Cheerly, my hearts! Mariners! Take in the topsail! Tend to the master's whistle! Blow till thou burst thy wind, if room enough!
Enter Alonso, Sebastian, Antonio, Ferdinand, and Gonzalo.
Good bosun, have care! Where's the master?
I pray now, keep below.
Where's the master, bosun?
Do you not hear him? You mow our labor. Keep to your cabins. You do assist the storm.
Nay, good, be patient.
When the sea is. Give thee hence, to cabin, silence! Trouble us not.
Good, yet remember whom thou hast aboard.
None that I more love than myself. You are a counselor. You work the peace. Use your authority. If you cannot, give thanks you have lived so long. And make yourself ready in your cabin for the mischance of the hour, if it so happen. Out of our way, I say! Down with the top now!
Main course.
Lower!
I have great comfort from this fellow. Methinks he hath no drowning mark upon him. Stand fast, good fate.
What do you still here? Shall we give o'er and drown? Have you a mind to sink?
Knock so you're through, you bawling, blasphemous, uncharitable dog.
Work you then.
Anchor. We are less afraid to be drowned than thou art.
I'll warrant him for drowning, though the ship were no stronger than a nutshell and as sleeky as an unstenched wench.
Lay her a hold. A hold! Let it 2 courses off to sea again. Lay her off. A hold!
To prayers. To
All
prayers.
lost! And all lost! What? Must our mouths be cold?
The king and prince at prayers. Let's assist them, for our case is as theirs.
I'm out of patience.
We are merely cheated of our lives by drunkards. This wide-chapped rathwolf, would thou mightst lie drowning the washing of 10 tides.
He'll be hanged yet, though every drop of water swears against it, and gape at widest to glut him.
Farewell, brother.
Mercy on us! We split.
Mercy on us! Farewell, brother. We split. We split!
Farewell, my
We
wife
split!
and children.
We split!
Let's all sink with the king.
Let's take leave of him.
Antonio and Sebastian attempt to escape to the cabins below.
Now would I give 1,000 furlongs of sea for an acre of barren ground. Long heath, anything. The will's above be done.
The ship is split in 2 as the storm intensifies. Act 1, Scene 2. On an island close to the shipwreck, Prospera speaks with her daughter Miranda.
If by your art, my dearest mother, you have put the wild waters in this roar, allay them. The sky, it seems, would pour down stinking pitch, but that the sea, mounting to the welkin's cheek, dashes the fire out. Oh, I have suffered with those I saw suffer. A brave vessel who had no doubt some noble creature in her, dashed all to pieces. Oh, the cry did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. Had I been any god of power, I would have sunk the sea within the earth.
Be collected. No more amazement. Tell your piteous heart there's no harm done.
Woe the day!
No harm. I have done nothing but in care of thee, my dear one, thee, my daughter, who art ignorant of what thou art, not knowing of whence I am, nor that I am more better than Prospera, mistress of a full poor cell, and thy no greater mother.
More to know did never meddle with my thoughts.
'Tis time I should inform thee farther. Lend thy hand and pluck my magic garment from me. So, lie there, my art. Wipe thou thine eyes, have comfort. The direful spectacle of the wreck, which touched the very virtue of compassion in thee, I have, with such provision in mine art, so safely ordered, that there's no soul, no, not so much perdition as a hair, betide any creature in the vessel which thou heardst cry, which thou sawest sink. Sit down, for thou must know further.
You have often begun to tell me what I am, but stopped and left me to a bootless inquisition, concluding, stay, not yet.
The hour's now come. The very minute bids thee ope thine ear. Obey and be attentive. Canst thou remember a time before we came unto this cell? I do not think thou canst, for then thou wast not but 3 years old.
Certainly I can.
By what? By any other house or person, of anything the image tell me that hath kept with thy remembrance?
Is far off and rather like a dream than an assurance that my remembrance warrants. Had I not 4 or 5 women once that tended me?
Thou hadst, and more, Miranda. But how is it that this lives in thy mind? What seest thou else in the dark backyard and abysm of time? If thou rememberest aught ere thou camest here, how thou camest here thou mayest.
But that I do not.
12 years since, Miranda, 12 years since, thy mother was the ruler of Milan, a princess of power.
Madam, are you not my mother?
Thy mother was Duchess of Milan, and thou her only heir and princess no worse issued.
The heavens! What foul play had we that we came from thence? Or blessed was it we did?
Both, my girl. By foul play, as thou sayest, were we heaved thence, and blessedly helped hither.
My heart bleeds to think of the teen I have turned you to, which is from my remembrance. Please you, farther?
My brother and thy uncle, called Antonio, I pray thee mark me, that a brother should be so perfidious, he who next thyself of all the world I loved, and to him put the manage of my state, as at that time through all the signories it was the first, and Prospera the prime, being so reputed in dignity, and for the liberal arts without a parallel, whose being all my study, the government I cast upon my brother, and to my state grew stronger, being transported and wrapped in secret studies. Thy false uncle, dost thou attend me?
Madam, most heedfully.
Being once perfected how to grant suits, how to deny them, who to advance and who to trash for overtopping, new created the creatures that were mine, I say, or changed them, or else new formed them, having both the key of officer and office, set all the hearts in the state to what tune pleased his ear, that now he was the ivy which had hit my royal trunk and sucked my verdure out on it. Thou attendst not?
Good madam, I do.
I pray thee mark me. I thus neglecting worldly ends, all dedicated to closeness and the bettering of my mind, In my false brother awaked an evil nature, and my trust, like a good parent, did beget of him a falsehood in its contrary as great as my trust was, which had indeed no limit, the confidence sans bound. He being thus lorded, not only with what my revenue yielded, but what my power might else exact, he did believe he was indeed the Duke, out of the substitution and executing the outward face of royalty with all prerogative. Hence his ambition growing. Dost thou hear?
Your tale, madam, would cure deafness.
To have no screen between this part he played and him he played it for, he needs to be absolute Milan. Me, poor woman, my library was kingdom large enough. Of temporal royalties he thinks me now incapable. Confederate, so dry he was for sway, with the king of Naples, to give him annual tribute, do him homage, subject his coronet to his crown, and bend the dukedom yet unbowed. Alas, poor Milan, to most ignoble stooping.
Oh, the heavens!
Mark his condition and the event, then tell me this might be a brother.
I should sin to think but nobly of my grandmother. Good wombs have borne bad sons.
Now the condition. The king of Naples, being an enemy to my inveterate, hearkens my brother's suit, which was that he, in lieu of the premises of homage, and I know not how much tribute, should presently extirpate me and mine, and confer fair Milan with all the honours on my brother, whereon a treacherous army levied. One midnight, fated to the purpose, did Antonia open the gates of Milan, and in the dead of darkness the ministers for the purpose hurried thence me and thy crying self.
Alack, for pity! Wherefore did they not that hour destroy us?
Well demanded, girl. My tale provokes that question. Dear, they durst not. So dear the love my people bore me, nor set a mark so bloody on the business, but with colours fairer painted their foul ends. In few, they hurried us aboard a bark, bore us some leagues to sea, where they prepared a rotten carcass of a boat, not rigged, nor tackle, sail, nor mast. The very rats instinctively had quit it. There they hoist us to cry to the sea that roared to us.
Alack, what trouble was I then to you?
Oh, a cherubim thou wast that did preserve me. Thou didst smile, infused with a fortitude from heaven, when I have decked the sea with dropsful salt under my burthen grout, which raised in me an undergoing stomach to bear up against what should ensue.
How came we ashore?
By providence divine. Some food we had, and some fresh water, that a noble Neapolitan, Gonzalo, out of his charity, being then appointed master of this design, did give us, with rich garments, linens, stuffs, and necessaries, which since have steadied much. So, of his gentleness, knowing I loved my books, he furnished me from mine own library with volumes that I prize above my kingdom.
Would that I might but ever see that man.
Now I arise, sit still, and hear the last of our sea sorrow. Here in this island we arrived, and here have I, thy schoolmistress, made thee more profit than other princesses can, than have more time for vainer hours and tutors not so careful.
Heavens thank you for it. And now I pray you, for 'tis still beating in my mind, your reason for raising this sea storm?
Know thus far forth, by accident most strange, bountiful fortune now, my dear lady, hath mine enemies brought to this shore, and by my prescience I find my zenith doth depend upon a most auspicious star, whose influence I court, not but omit. My fortunes will ever after droop. Here cease more questions. Thou art inclined to sleep. 'Tis a good dullness, and give it way. I know thou canst not choose.
Miranda, her eyes heavy with this news, lays down to sleep. Ariel, Prospero's servant sprite, approaches.
Come, servant, come. I'm ready now. Approach, my Ariel, come.
All hail, great mistress. Hail! I come to answer thy best pleasure, be it to fly, to swim, to dive into the fire, to ride on the curled clouds, to thy strong bidding task, Ariel, and all her quality.
Hast thou, spirit, performed to point the tempest that I bade thee?
To every article, I boarded the king's ship, now on the beak, now in the waist, the deck, in every cabin I flamed amazement. Sometime I'd divide and burn in many places. On the topmast, the yards, the bowsprit, would I flame distinctly, then meet and join. Jove's lightnings, the precursors of the dreadful thunderclaps, more momentary and sight outrunning were not. The fire and cracks of sulphurous roaring, the most mighty Neptune seemed to besiege and make his bold waves tremble, yea, his dread trident shake.
My brave spirit! Who was so firm, so constant, that this coil would not infect his reason?
Not a soul but felt a fever of the mad, and played some tricks of desperation. All but mariners plunged into the foaming brine and quit the vessel. Then, all afire with me, the king's son Ferdinand, with hair upstaring, then like reeds, not hair, was the first man that leaped, cried, "Hell is empty, and all the devils are here!"
Why, that's my spirit! But was not this nigh shore?
Close by, mistress.
But are there, Ariel, safe?
Not a hair perished. On their sustaining garments not a blemish, but fresher than before. And, as thou badest me, in troops have I dispersed them about the isle. The king's son have I landed by himself, whom I left cooling of the air with sighs in an odd angle of the isle, and sitting, his arms in this sad knot.
Of the king's ship the mariners, say how thou hast disposed and all the rest of the fleet.
Safely in the harbor is the king's ship, in the deep nook there she's hid. The mariners all under hatches stowed, who with a charm joined to their suffered labor, I have left asleep. And for the rest of the fleet which I dispersed, they all have met again, and are upon the Mediterranean float, bound sadly home for Naples, supposing that they saw the king's ship wrecked, and his great person perish.
Ariel, thy charge exactly is performed. But there's more work. What's the time of the day?
Past the mid-season.
At least 2 glasses. The time twixt 6 and now must by us both be spent most preciously.
Is there more toil? Since thou dost give me pains, let me remember thee what thou hast promised, which is not yet performed on me.
Oh no, moody? What is it thou canst demand?
My liberty!
Before the time be out? No more.
I prithee remember I have done thee worthy service, told thee no lies, made thee no mistakings, served without grudge or grumblings. Thou didst promise to bait me a full year.
Dost thou forget from what a torment I did free thee?
No.
Thou dost, and thinks it much to tread the ooze of the salt deep, to run upon the sharp wind of the north, to do me business in the veins of the earth when it is baked with frost.
I do not, ma'am.
Thou liest, malignant thing! Hast thou forgot the foul witch Sycorax, who with age and envy has grown into a hoop? Hast thou forgot her?
No, mistress.
Thou hast. Where was she born? Speak, tell me.
Mistress in Argier.
Oh, was she so? I must once in a month recount what thou hast been, which thou forgettest. This damned witch Sycorax, For mischiefs manifold and sorceries terrible to enter human hearing, from Argier, thou knowest, was banished. For one thing she did, they would not take her life. Is not this true? This blue-eyed hag was hither brought with child, and here was left by the sailors. Thou, my slave, as thou reportst thyself, was then her servant, and for thou wast a spirit too delicate to act her earthly and abhorred commands, refusing her grand hests, she did confine thee, by help of her more potent ministers, and in her most unmitigable rage into a cloven pine, within which rift imprisoned thou didst painfully remain 12 years, within which space she died and left thee there, where thou didst vent thy groans as fast as mill wheels strike. Then was this island, save for the sun that she did litter here, a freckled whelp hag-born, not honoured with a human shape.
Yes, Caliban, her son.
Dull thing, I say so. He, that Caliban, whom now I keep in service. Thou best knowest what torment I did find thee in. Thy groans did make wolves howl and penetrate the breasts of ever angry bears. It was mine art, when I arrived and heard thee, that made gape the pine and let thee out.
I thank thee, madam.
If thou more murmurst, I will rent an oak and peg thee in the snotty entrails. Thou hast howled away 12 winters.
Pardon! I will be correspondent to command and do my spiriting gently.
Do so. And after 2 days, I will discharge thee.
Oh, that's my noble mistress. What shall I do? Say what? What shall I do?
Go make thyself like a nymph of the sea. Be subject to no sight but thine and mine, invisible to every eyeball else. Go, take this shape and hither come in it. Go, hence with diligence.
Ariel exits with humility. Prospera begins to wake Miranda.
Awake, dear heart, awake. Thou hast slept well, awake.
Oh, the strangeness of your story put heaviness in me.
Shake it off. Come on. We'll visit Caliban, who never yields us kind answer.
'Tis a villain I do not love to look on.
But as it is, we cannot miss him. He does make a fire, fetching our wood, and serves in offices that profit us. What ho, Caliban! Thou earth thou! Speak!
Caliban calls from within the camp in answer to Prospera.
There's wood enough within.
Come forth, I say. There's other business for thee. Come, thou tortoise. When?
Ariel re-enters, disguised as a water nymph.
Fine apparition. My quaint Ariel, hark in thine ear.
Prospera whispers orders to Ariel.
It shall be done. I go.
Thou poisonous slave, got by the devil himself upon thy wicked dam, come forth!
Caliban reluctantly emerges from the hovel.
As wicked do, as e'er my mother brushed with raven's feather from unwholesome fen drop on you both. A southwest blow on ye and blister you all o'er.
For this be sure, tonight thou shalt have cramps, sight stitches that shall pen thy breath up. Urchins shall, for that vast of night that they may work all exercise on thee. Thou shalt be pinched as thick as honeycomb, each pinch more stinging than bees that made 'em.
I must eat my dinner. This island's mine, by Sycorax my mother, which thou takest from me. When thou camest first, thou strokest me and madest much of me, wouldst give me water with berries in it, and teach me how to name the bigger light, and how the less that burn by day and night. And then I loved thee, and showed thee all the qualities of the isle, the fresh springs, brine pits, barren place and fertile. Cursed be I that did so. Oh, the charms of Sycorax, toads, beetles, bats, light on you. For I am all the subjects that you have, which first was mine own king. And here you sty me in this hovel, whiles you do keep me from the rest of the island.
Thou most lying churl, whom stripes may move, not kindness. I have used thee, filth as thou art, with human care, and lodged thee in mine own cell, till thou didst seek to violate the honor of my child.
Oh, would it had been done! Thou didst prevent me. I had peopled else this isle with Calibans.
I pitied thee, took pains to make thee speak, taught thee each hour one thing or other. When thou didst not, savage, know thine own meaning, but wouldst gabble like a thing most brutish, I endowed thy purposes with words that made them known. But thy vile race, though thou didst learn, had that in it which good natures could not abide to be with. Therefore wast thou deservedly confined into this rock, who hadst deserved more than a prison.
You taught me language, and my profit on't is, I know how to curse. The red plague rid you for learning me your language.
Oh, heck, seat hence! Fetch us in fuel and be quick. Thou art best to answer other business. Shrugg'st thou malice? If thou neglect'st or dost unwillingly what I command, I'll rack thee with old cramps, fill all thy bones with aches, make thee roar that beasts shall tremble at thy din.
No, pray thee.
Caliban stumbles away from Prospera, utters under his breath,
I must obey. Her art is of such power it would control my damned god Setibus and make a vassal of him.
So, beast, hence!
Caliban exits, forlornly, as Ariel re-enters, playing and singing, with Ferdinand following behind. She is singing to draw him, unknowingly, to draw him like a siren. He can't quite tell where the singing is coming from.
Come unto these yellow sands, and then take hands, curtsied while you have and kissed, the wild waves wisp, footed feetly here and there, and sweet sprite the bird and bear. Hark, hark, cry cock-a-diddle-dow, cock-a-diddle-dow.
Where should this music be? In the air or the earth? It sounds no more. And sure it waits upon some god of the island. Sitting on a bank, weeping again the king my father's wreck, this music crept by me upon the waters, allaying both their fury and my passion with its sweet air. Thence I have followed it, or it hath drawn me rather. But 'tis gone.
Full fathom 5 thy father lies,
No, it begins again.
of his bones are coral made, those are pearls that were his eyes, nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer us each change into something rich and strange. Sea nymphs hourly ring his knell, mournful bells, ding dong, ding dong. Hark, now I hear them, ding dong, ding dong.
This song does remember my drowned father. This is no mortal business, nor no sound that the earth owes. I hear it now, above me.
Prospera and Miranda observe the confused Ferdinand.
The fringed curtains of thine eye advance, and say what thou seest yond.
What is it? A spirit? Lord, how it looks about! Believe me, mother, it carries a brave form, but 'tis a spirit.
No, wench, it eats and sleeps and has such senses as we have. This gallant which thou seest was in the wreck, and, but he's something stained with grief, thou mightst call him a goodly person. He hath lost his fellows and strays about to find them.
I might call him a thing fine, for nothing natural I ever saw so noble.
Miranda ventures towards Ferdinand while Prospera comments to herself.
It goes on, I see, as my soul prompts it. Ariel, fine spirit, I'll free thee within 2 days for this.
You wonder.
Most sure, the goddess on whom these airs attend. Vouchsafe my prayer may know if you remain upon this island, and that you will some good instruction give how I may bear me here. My prime request, which I do last pronounce, is... Oh, you wonder if you be maid or no.
No wonder, sir, but certainly a maid.
My language. Heavens. I am the best of them that speak this speech. Were I but where 'tis spoken.
How the best? What wert thou if the King of Naples heard thee?
A single thing, as I am now, that wonders to hear thee speak of Naples. He does hear me, and that he does, I weep. Myself am Naples, who with mine eyes, never since at ebb, beheld the king my father wrecked.
Alack for mercy!
Yes, faith, and all his lords, the Duke of Milan and his brave son being twain.
Prospera revels in her accomplishment and says to herself,
At the first sight they have changed eyes. Delicate Ariel, I'll set thee free for this. A word, good sir. I fear ye have done yourself some wrong. A word.
Why speaks my mother so ungently? This is the second man that e'er I saw, the first that e'er I sighed for. Pity move my mother to be inclined my way.
Oh, if a virgin and your affection not gone forth, I'll make you the Queen of Naples.
Soft, sir. One word more. I charge thee that thou attend me. Thou dost here usurp the name thou owest not, and hast put thyself upon this island as a spy to win it from me, the lady on it.
No,
There's
as I am a
nothing
man.
ill can dwell in such a temple. If the ill spirit have so fair a house, good things will strive to dwell with it.
Follow me. Speak not you for him. He is a traitor. Come, I'll manacle thy neck and feet together. Sea water shalt thou drink. Thy food shall be the fresh brook mussels, withered roots and husks wherein the acorn cradled. Follow.
No, I will resist such entertainment till mine enemy has more power.
Ferdinand draws his weapon to protect himself, and Prospera charms him to keep him from moving. Miranda tries to
dear
intervene.
mother, make not too rash a trial of him, for he's gentle and not fearful.
What? I say my foot my tutor? Put thy sword up, traitor, who makest a show but darest not strike. Thy conscience is so possessed with guilt. Come from thy ward, for I can here disarm thee with a stick and make thy weapon
Beseech you,
drop.
mother.
Get thee hence, hang not on
Madam,
my
have
garments.
pity. I'll be his surety.
Silence. One word more shall make me chide thee, if not hate thee. What? An advocate for an impostor? Hush! Thou thinkst there's no more such shapes as he, having seen but him and Caliban. Foolish child! To the most of men this is a Caliban, and they to him
Your
are
affections
angels.
are then most humble. I have no ambition to see a goodlier man.
Come on, gentlemen, obey. Thy nerves are in their infancy again, and have no vigor in them.
So they are. My spirits, as in a dream, are all bound up. My father's loss, the weakness which I feel, the wreck of all my friends, nor this woman's threats to whom I am subdued, are but light to me. Might I but through my prison once a day behold this maid, all corners else of the earth let liberty make use of. Space enough have I in such a prison.
Come then, sir. Thou hast done well, fine Ariel.
Be of
Follow
comfort,
me.
sir. My mother's of a better nature, sir, than she appears by speech. This is unwanted, which now came from her.
Ariel, hark what thou else shalt do me. Thou shalt be free as mountain winds, but then exactly do all points of my command. Come, follow.
Act 2, Scene 1. Elsewhere, on another part of the island, Alonso, the King of Naples, Sebastian, the brother of the king, Antonio, the Duke of Milan, and Prospero's brother, Old Lord Gonzalo and Lady Adriana all take stock of what has occurred.
Beseech you, sir, be merry. You have cause, so have we all a joy. For our escape is much beyond our loss. Our hint of woe is common. Every day some sailor's wife, the masters of some merchant, and the merchant have just our theme of woe. But for the miracle, I mean our preservation, few in millions can speak like us. Then wisely, good sir, weigh our sorrow with our comfort.
Prithee, peace.
He receives comfort like cold porridge.
The visitor will not give him over so.
Look, he's winding up the watch of his wit. By and by it will strike.
Sir,
1. Tell.
when every grief is entertained that's offered, comes to the entertainer,
$1.
dollar comes to him indeed. You have spoken truer than you purposed.
You have taken it wiselier than I meant you should.
Therefore, my lord.
Aye, what a spendthrift is he of his tongue.
I prithee spare.
Well, I have done. But yet.
They will be talking.
Which of he or Adriana for a good wager first begins to crow?
The old cock.
The lady.
Done. Wager?
A jest. A laugh.
A match.
Though this island seemed to be desert,
So you're paid.
uninhabitable and almost inaccessible,
Yet.
She could not miss it.
it must needs be of subtle, tender, and delicate temperance.
Temperance was a delicate wench.
Aye, and as subtle as she mostly learnedly delivered.
The air breathes upon us here most sweetly.
As if it had lungs, and rotten ones.
Or as 'twere perfumed by a fen.
Here is everything advantageous to life.
True, save means to live.
Of that there's none or little.
How lush and lusty the grass looks! How green!
The ground indeed is tawny.
With an eye of green in it.
He misses not much.
No, but he doth mistake the truth totally.
But the rarity of it is, which is indeed almost beyond credit,
as many vouched rarities are,
that our garments, being, as they were, drenched in the sea, hold notwithstanding their freshness and glosses, being rather new dyed than stained with salt water.
If but one of his pockets could speak, would it not say he lies?
Aye, or very falsely pocket up his report.
Methinks our garments are now as fresh as when we would put them on first in Africa, at the marriage of the king's fair daughter Claribel to the king of Tunis.
'Twas a sweet marriage, and we prosper well in our return.
Tunis was never graced before with such a paragon for their queen.
Not since widow Dido's time.
Widow? Ox on that. How came that widow in? Widow Dido?
What if he had said widower Aeneas, too? Good Lord, how you take it.
Widow Dido, said you. You make me a study of that. She was of Carthage, not of Tunis.
This Tunis, lady, was Carthage.
Carthage?
I assure you, Carthage.
His word is more than the miraculous harp. He hath raised the wall and houses too.
What impossible matter will he make easy next?
I think he will carry this island home in his pocket and give it his son for an apple.
And sowing the kernels of it in the sea, bring forth more islands.
Aye.
Aye, in good time.
Sir, we were talking that our garments seem now as fresh as when we were at Tunis at the marriage of your daughter, who is now queen.
And the rarest that ever came there.
But I beseech you, Widow Dido.
Oh, Widow Dido, aye, Widow Dido.
Is not, sir, my doublet as fresh as the first day I wore it? I mean, in a sort?
That sort was well fished for.
When I wore it at your daughter's marriage?
You cram these words into mine ears against the stomach of my sense. Would I had never married my daughter there! For coming thence, my son is lost, and in my rate she too, who is so far from Italy removed, I ne'er again shall see her. O thou mine heir of Naples and of Milan, what strange fish hath made his meal on thee?
Sir, he may live. I saw him beat the surges under him and ride upon their backs. He trod the water, whose enmity he flung aside, and breasted the surge most swollen that met him. His bold head above the contentious waves he kept, and oared himself with his good arms in lusty stroke to the shore, that o'er his wave-worn basis bowed, as stooping to relieve him. I not doubt he came alive to land.
Ah, no, he's gone.
Sir, you may thank yourself for this great loss that would not bless our Europe with your daughter, but rather lose her to an African, where she at least is banished from your eye, who hath cause to wet the grief on it.
Prithee, peace.
You were kneeled to and importuned otherwise by all of us, and the fair soul herself weighed between loathness and obedience, at which end of the beam should bow. We have lost your son, I fear, forever. Milan and Naples have more widows in them of this business making than we bring men to comfort them. The fault's your own.
So is the dearest of the loss.
My lord Sebastian! The truth you speak doth lack some gentleness and time to speak it in. You rub the sore when you should bring the plaster.
Very well.
And most surgeonly.
It is foul weather in us all, good sir, when you are cloudy.
Foul weather?
Very foul.
Had I plantation of this isle, my lord,
he'd sow it with weeds.
Or docks, or mallows.
And were the king on't, what would I do?
'Scape being drunk for want of wine.
In the Commonwealth, I would by contraries execute all things. For no kind of traffic would I admit, no name of magistrate. Letters should not be known. Riches, poverty, and use of service, none. Contract, succession, bourne, bound of land, vineyard, none. No use of metal, corn, or wine, or oil. No occupation. All men idle. All, and women too, but innocent and pure. No sovereignty.
Yet he would be king on it.
The latter end of his commonwealth forgets the beginning.
All things in common nature should produce without sweat or endeavor. Treason, felony, sword, pike, knife, gun, or need of any engine would I not have. But nature should bring forth of its own kind all abundance to feed my innocent people.
No marrying among his subjects.
None, man. All idle, whores and knaves.
I would with such perfection govern, sir, to excel the golden age.
God save his majesty.
Long live Gonzalo.
And do you mark me, sir?
Prithee, no more. Thou dost talk nothing to me.
I do well believe, your highness, to minister occasion to these gentlemen, who are of such sensible and nimble lungs that they always used to laugh at nothing.
'Twas you we laughed at.
Who in this kind of merry fooling am nothing to you. So you may continue and laugh at nothing still.
What a blow was there given!
And it had not fallen flat long.
You are gentlemen of brave metal. You would lift the moon out of her sphere if she would continue in it 5 weeks without changing.
Unbeknownst to our castaways, the spirit Ariel entered, invisible, playing music to entice them all to sleep.
Nay, good my lord, be not angry.
No, I warrant you. I will not adventure my discretion so weakly. Will you laugh me asleep? For I am very heavy.
Go, sleep, and hear us.
All fall quickly to sleep, except Alonso, Sebastian, and Antonio.
What? All so soon asleep? I wish mine eyes would, with themselves, shut up my thought. I find they are inclined to do so.
Please you, sir, do not omit the heavy offer of it. It seldom visits sorrow. When it doth, it is a comforter.
We too, my lord, will guard your person while you take your rest and watch your safety.
Thank you. Wondrous heavy.
King Alonso drifts off to sleep quickly, as Ariel slips away silently.
What a strange drowsiness possesses them.
It is the quality of the climate.
Why doth not then our eyelids sink? I find not myself disposed to sleep.
Nor I. My spirits are nimble. They fell together as by consent. They dropped as if by a thunderstroke. What might were they, Sebastian? Oh, what might? No more. And yet, methinks I see it in thy face. What thou shouldst be, the occasion speaks thee, and my strong imagination sees a crown dropping upon thy head.
What? Art thou waking?
Do you not hear me speak?
I do, and surely it is a sleepy language thou speakst out of thy sleep. What is it thou didst say? This is a strange repose, to be asleep with eyes wide open.
Noble Sebastian, thou lett'st thy fortune sleep, die rather. Wink'st whilst thou art waking.
Thou dost snore distinctly. There's meaning in thy snores.
I am more serious than my custom. You must be so too, if heed me, which to do trebles thee over.
Well, I am standing water.
I'll teach you how to flow.
Do so. To ebb, hereditary sloth instructs me.
Oh, if you but knew how you the purpose cherish, whilst thus you mock it. How, in stripping it, you more invest it. Ebbing men indeed most often do so near the bottom of the run by their own fear or sloth.
Prithee, say on. The setting of thine eye and cheek proclaim a matter from thee, and a birth indeed which throws thee much to yield.
Thus, sir, although this Lord Gonzalo of weak remembrance, who shall be of as little memory when he is earthed, hath here almost persuaded. For he is a spirit of persuasion only, professes to persuade. The king, his son's alive, 'tis as impossible that he's undrowned as he that sleeps here swims.
I have no hope that Ferdinand lives.
Oh, out of that no hope, what great hope you have. No hope, that way is another way, so high a hope that even ambition cannot pierce a wink beyond. But doubt discovery there. Will you grant with me that Ferdinand is drowned?
He's gone.
Then tell me, who's the next heir of Naples?
Claribel.
She that is queen of Tunis? She that dwells 10 leagues beyond man's life? She that from Naples can have no note unless the sun were to post? the man in the moon too slow, she that from whom we all were sea-swallowed, though some cast again, and by that destiny to perform an act whereof what's past is prologue, what to come is yours and my discharge.
What stuff is this? How say you? 'Tis true, my brother's daughter's queen of Tunis, so is she heir of Naples, twixt which regions there is some space.
A space whose every cubit seems to cry out, how shall that Claribel measure us back in Naples? Keep in Tunis and let Sebastian wake. Say this were death that now hath seized them. Why, they were no worse than they are now. There can be that rule Naples as well as he that sleeps. Lords that can prate as amply and unnecessarily as this Gonzalo. I myself could make a chuff of that deep chat. Oh, that you bore the smart mind that I do. What a sleep were this for your advancement. Do you understand me?
Methinks I do.
And how does your content tender your own good fortune?
I remember you did supplant your sister Prospera.
True. And look how well my garments sit upon me, much feeder than before. My sister's servants were then my fellows, now they are my men.
But for your conscience?
Aye, sir, where lies that? If 'twere a canker, 'twould put me to my slipper. But I feel not this deity in my bosom. 20 consciences that stand twixt me and Milan, candied be they, and melt ere they molest. Here lies your brother, no better than the earth he lies upon. If he were that which now he's like, that's dead, whom I, with this obedient steel, 3 inches of it, can lay to bed forever, whiles you, doing thus to the perpetual wink for an eye, might put this ancient morsel, this Gonzalo, who should not upbraid our course, for all the rest. They'll take suggestions as a cat laps milk. They'll tell the clock to any business that we say before the hour.
Thy case, dear friend, shall be my precedent. As thou gotst Milan, I'll come by Naples. Draw thy sword. One stroke shall free them from the tribute which thou payest, and I, the king, shall love thee.
Draw together, and when I rear my hand, do you the like to fall it on Gonzalo.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Merced Shakespearefest presents William Shakespeare's The Tempest. This week's cast featured Heike Hambley as Prospera, Rachel Battisti as Miranda, Krista Joy Serpa as Ariel, Tracy Sprague as Caliban, Kyle Holman as Ferdinand, David Hambley as Alonzo, Harker Hale as Sebastian, Sean Overton as Antonio, Aaron Isaacs as Adriana, Alejandro Gutierrez as Gonzalo, Gary Thomas as the Master, Colton Dennis as the Bosun, Michael Caine, Travis Blansett, and Harker Hale as the Mariners, and Carin Heidelbach as the narrator. This production was recorded mostly live online. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please subscribe to the channel so you can get regular updates as new episodes and future projects are released. You can find out more about Merced Shakespearefest and how you can support Shakespeare in the community at mercedshakespearefest.org or follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Merced Shakespearefest Presents is a production of the Phoenix Podcast Network. For more great arts-based podcasts, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's all for this week, but we'll see you next week as we find out what happens in Episode 2 of Merced Shakespearefest Presents William Shakespeare's The Tempest.